Ladies and gentlemen, we got the fantasy football playoffs coming up very, very quickly. And today we're going to go over 8 players that I believe you need to absolutely have on your radar for those games. And we are starting off today with Keaton Mitchell. Now, I know the hype for Keaton Mitchell over the past 5 or so weeks has been extremely high. Everybody's been saying he's going to go off for the longest time. He had 2 good games in a row where he scored a touchdown. And then this past week, didn't do the best. But you can clearly see why the hype for this guy is so high. He's just a big play waiting to happen almost every single time that he touches the ball. Now, some people might have jumped the gun on Thursday night against the Bengals, plugging him into their lineup. I will say I did plug him into one of my lineups. I am guilty of that, and, I accepted the consequences, absolutely ruined my week. Why would you ever start a guy on Thursday night that, you don't even know if he's going to get enough volume? I don't know. Don't ask me that question, but I have a feeling that he's going to start playing well. He really is, okay? You might just want to wait a week or two more before you start him in your lineups, but the good news for Mitchell is that he was on the field for about 37% of snaps on Thursday night against the Bengals, which is a 13% increase from the previous week 10 where he played against the Browns. And it doesn't seem to be a secret that Justice Hill is going to be the one in this backfield, kind of taking a back seat. You got Gus Edwards to run downhill. Then you have Keaton Mitchell for those big play type of switch ups. Now, I cannot sit here and guarantee that Keaton Mitchell is going to take over the starting job or anything from Gus Edwards. Now, if I had to compare this to anything, I would say it's similar to a David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs type of situation if you were like a Dollar General version of the Lions running game. You got Gus Edwards to pound the ball, over and over and over down the middle of the field, run over people. And then you have Keaton Mitchell who can break that big play at any point in time. Now, we only have 3 regular season fantasy football games left for most players, but Keaton Mitchell actually has a bye. The Ravens have a bye here in week 13. So he has only 2 more games to prove why he should be in your fantasy football playoff lineups. If you aren't comfortable plugging this guy in, he's owned in less than 50% of ESPN leagues. Definitely go out and grab him off waivers, because if somebody plays him against you and he starts playing well and he drops 30 plus points against you in your fantasy playoffs, you are not going to be a happy camper. Like I said, I don't know if I would plug him into the lineup just yet. I want to see that volume get to around probably 50-ish% of snaps and then him get like 12 to, 15 touches a game. That would be amazing volume for Keaton Mitchell. I don't know if that's actually going to happen this season, but if it does, you need to have this guy rostered and potentially think about playing him in your lineups. Now we're going to move on to Zach Charbonnet, obviously the biggest waiver pickup of the week in week 12, and for good reason. Now, personally, I've been holding on to Zach Charbonnet for about, I'd say it was like week 3 when I picked him up off waivers, just hoping for a situation like this to happen, not necessarily meaning an injury for Kenneth Walker, of course. That's never good news for an injury to a running back, but you got to have that backup option on your team, and Zach Charbonnet is a great option in that regard. So far, I can't really say anything negative about Charbonnet. From what we've seen so far, he's averaging 4.9 yards per carry this season, has 19 catches as a backup running back, and he has just recently come on and is getting more and more playing time as these weeks have gone on. I know Kenneth Walker here and there has been dealing with injuries. Now with that oblique injury, Pete Carroll said, it wasn't a joke. This was not a joke injury, so he could possibly miss a couple of games here, and Zach Charbonnet is a great option for you. Now, this is a situation kind of very comparable to a Jahmyr Gibbs situation and David Montgomery, and also Keaton Mitchell and Gus Edwards, like we were just talking about. Kenneth Walker can break an 80-yard touchdown play, a big play, massive play at any point in time in the game, whereas Zach Charbonnet will just run you the hell over. If he wants to get past you, he will just run you over. Kenneth Walker will probably go around you. Although he did have a nice truck earlier on in the season, I will say Kenneth Walker absolutely ran somebody over. We love to see that from K9, but I'm very excited to see what Charbonnet can do against this 49ers defense. Of course, this is not the best type of matchup, and we don't know how long Kenneth Walker is going to be out for. I am still starting Zach Charbonnet against the San Francisco 49ers. If they were to shut down Kenneth Walker for an extended period of time, I know Pete Carroll said that they're not looking to put Kenneth Walker on the IR at this point in time, but if they changed their mind and did that, we got the Titans later on in the season and the Steelers in the fantasy football playoffs for Zach Charbonnet, and those are 2 solid matchups the way that he is catching so many passes, the way that he is getting all the volume in that backfield when Kenneth Walker is not on the field, I love Zach Charbonnet heading into the rest of the season. Next up, we got Isiah Pacheco. Talk about a dominant running performance against the Philadelphia Eagles, who ranked first heading into last week. I still believe they're ranking first in the league against opposing fantasy running backs. We have to talk about some positives and negatives here for Pacheco heading into the rest of the season. Starting with the positives, the schedule is an absolute cakewalk the rest of the way. They get the Raiders, the Packers, the Bills, the Raiders again, and then the Bengals. One of the easiest schedules out of all the running backs that I've seen in fantasy. The guy runs extremely hard and can break tackles all day long. He can break a big play whenever he wants to. Now, there is some negatives to Pacheco, though, I will say. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week number 5 because the Chiefs just refused to give him the ball near the goal line recently. They would rather do some play to Travis Kelce, or they do some funky play to Kadarius Toney, some end-around type play. Andy Reid has all different types of concoctions near the goal line, so Pacheco kind of gets hurt in that portion of the field. Number 2 is that the past 2 weeks, he only has 1 catch in those games combined. That is not good, especially for PPR value. Number 3 is that in a negative game script, he's not the one on the field for the most part. It's going to be McKinnon and it's going to be Edwards-Helaire. But I will say when they are in positive game script, he's the one getting a lot of rushes. You saw he had 19 carries against the Eagles, which was great. He just didn't catch too many passes. So he's going to be much more valuable in those standard leagues than the PPR leagues. I will say he is a great flex option, though, heading into the rest of the season, just with his schedule being so easy. You want to see him get more involved in that passing game, though, for sure. And hopefully, this guy can find the end zone against a lot easier opponents when he gets a bigger workload. Next up is Jaylen Warren. We got a lot of factors here working in Jaylen Warren's favor right now. First and foremost, thank the Lord, thank God that they fired Matt Canada. Get that man out of here. Deontay Johnson is getting no catches. George Pickens has been abysmal this season so far, and Jaylen Warren has honestly been the one bright spot. I mean, Najee Harris honestly isn't playing too bad either. I got to give Najee his props, but we are going to finally see what this Steelers team is made of for once. Now, am I sold on this offense that Matt Canada's gone and this offense is going to put up 30-plus points a week like the Miami Dolphins over here all of a sudden? Absolutely not, but they have to do better than 7 points against the Cleveland Browns. They have to see some sort of improvement. Another thing is that over the past 3 games, Warren hasn't scored less than 14 PPR fantasy points. I don't know how you can bench this guy at the moment. He is getting hot at the perfect time for fantasy football. Also, you can count on him for a few catches here and there. I don't think there's been a game where he's got less than 2 catches in the past couple of games, which of course adds value in PPR leagues especially. Warren also ranks top 5 in evaded tackles right now and is averaging over 6 yards per carry, which is insane. If we take a look at the Steelers' schedule for the rest of the year, it really isn't too bad at all. The Bengals, the Cardinals, the Patriots, the Colts, the Bengals again, then the Seahawks to finish off the season. With Warren's big playability, like I said, I don't know how you can have this guy on your bench right now, and if he's somehow magically still on waivers, you're playing in a fairy league and he's still on waivers, pick this guy up and at least hold him on your bench. If he's on waivers, you're probably in a 6-man league, you're probably in a 4-man league, but regardless of that, Jaylen Warren should be definitely in consideration for being put in your starting lineup. Next up, we got Devin Singletary. After 2 straight games of Devin Singletary scoring right around 20 fantasy points, I mean, he had about 19 or so last week, and then he had over 20 the previous week. You have to take notice of that. Okay, I will say these opponents, the past 2 weeks, the Bengals and the Cardinals, they are known to give up those big plays and a lot of rushing yards, that is. And the schedule does toughen up pretty soon. But Dameon Pierce, the other running back on this Texans team, has been absolutely horrendous so far this year. He's coming back from an injury in week 12. If he even does play, he's still listed on the injury report as of Tuesday. So I don't know if he's actually even going to play in this game. And even if he does, is he even going to get the full workload that he normally gets? Personally, I would rather him not even play, and we could see what Devin Singletary is made of against a better team here. Once this Texans offense, they've been humming. They have been really getting going as of late. So you really want to see if that carries over into this next week and the next couple of weeks. I will say their offensive line still doesn't look amazing, but it has certainly taken a step up since the beginning of the season. We also talked about the schedule getting tough, and in the fantasy football playoffs, they faced the Tennessee Titans 2 times and then the Cleveland Browns once. I'm not over here jumping for joy that, Devin Singletary is on my team per se, but I will say that if this offense keeps playing as well as they have been, and Dameon Pierce, sees a dramatic decrease in workload once he comes back from that injury, then Devin Singletary is a solid option for the rest of the season. The schedule, though, kind of scares me, but there's certainly worse options than having to play Devin Singletary if he's going to get that many touches. Next, we got Puka Nacua on the Rams. Right now, the Rams are sitting at 4-6. Cooper Kupp hurt his ankle in last week's game against the Seahawks. We don't know if he's going to be his normal self. We don't know if he's even going to play in week number 12. I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly what's going to happen in this situation, okay? If Kupp isn't 100% and the Rams lose the next 2 or 3 games in a row, I find it hard to believe that they're going to stick him out there if he's in pain, and they might, throw in the towel on the season, because there's going to be a very minimal chance that they do anything this year if they lose the next couple of games. Stafford is getting old, Kupp is getting old, and these guys are clearly in pain. But if there's any slight chance that Matt Stafford stays out there and Cooper Kupp does not go out there, then I love Puka for the rest of the season. He is clearly a bright spot on this Rams team, and they're going to feed him the ball for the rest of the season. If Stafford, if Stafford doesn't end up playing later on in this season, then it's going to be really hard to trust Puka, though. That's the only thing. So this is a situation. Stafford plays, then Puka is a must start. Stafford doesn't play, then I'm kind of hesitant. So we'll just have to see what happens there. Next up, we got Trey McBride. I will say the Cardinals love drawing up plays for their tight ends, whether it was Josh Dobbs early on in the season or right now with Kyler Murray and McBride. He has established himself in my books as a top 5 tight end, especially with Mark Andrews being out. I would consider TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, and Maybe I'm missing one, but I would put Trey McBride in that number 5 slot at the moment. I'm probably missing a big one. You're going to clown me in the comment section below, but it is what it is. I got to put him in the top 5 right now. He gets a ton of targets, and they aren't just crappy dump down passes. Like Zach Ertz early on in the season was getting just awful targets. These are 10 to 15 yard downfield targets for Trey McBride. And he caught a deep ball the other week. When is the last time you saw a tight end go for a go route? Okay, that was pretty impressive where he caught that deep ball to basically ice the game for the Cardinals. And they have something special with this guy. And Kyler Murray is going to keep looking his way the rest of this season, especially because none of these receivers so far have been doing anything at all. Hollywood Brown has not been good these past couple of weeks with Kyler Murray back. I will say, it's not 100% his fault. Kyler missed Marquise Brown on a very easy touchdown. Well, it's very easy to say it's easy from my point of view, but it was probably a tough pass. Just hit him on the hands when he was diving, so it should have been a long touchdown for Hollywood Brown. And then I believe he missed him once or twice in week number 11 as well. So Hollywood Brown, I thought he was going to play a lot better with Kyler Murray. Hopefully he steps it up into the fantasy playoffs because their schedule is pretty simple. But Trey McBride right now is the number 1 pass catcher on this team, and I would love to have him in my fantasy lineups, especially in your tight end leagues. I know some leagues play with like 2 flexes and no tight end. I'd still consider playing Trey McBride in those as well. And last but not least, let's talk about the 3 Seahawks wide receivers here. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jaxon-Smith, and Njigba. We talked about it after week number 9. We said DK had some rough matchups and was bound to start playing better. And he's done just that. And Tyler Lockett, he has been old reliable. You know exactly what you're going to get from him, and you know what you're going to get from JSN. He's good for about 3 to 4 catches and about 50 yards receiving per game, unless there's an injury to Lockett and then Metcalf. And then I really do, in that situation, love JSN for the rest of the year. Their schedule is Philadelphia, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh in the fantasy football playoffs. It is the easiest schedule out of any wide receiver in the league. It doesn't get much better than that. You just need to hope that Geno Smith is healthy for those playoffs because they're in a position right now at 6-4 where they are going to be fighting for their lives to get into those playoffs and get a better seed in the playoffs. So, they're going to need all three of these receivers to play well. It's not like a situation where you're the Cardinals and you're 2-9 or whatever the case may be, and you don't really care what happens for the rest of the year. They are going to be pushing to make the playoffs, and they're going to be trying their absolute best to win these games. And all three of these guys will be involved and should be on your fantasy radars into the playoffs. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure drop a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I will catch you guys on Friday, I believe, will be the next video, and we'll be back with normal uploads starting next week. We're finally recovering from that ACL surgery, and, it's a lot less painful than it was in the past 2 weeks. Anyways, catch you in the next one. Peace.